think you made reference to the parking controversy. There was a MinPost article, I believe it was, criticizing parking. The online document that I looked at, I thought said 325 some parking spaces, and you say 550. What kind of transit assumptions were made? And
So some of the things we have to go into is this is more than just an office. We do have about 565 employees that'll be at that location after we bring all 4 pieces in. We have a professional development center that we're going to have there that will bring in about 60 people a day into that area. We have an ABE. You saw the adult basic education. That'll be in 3 different shifts. The first shift is about 275 students, second about 140, and the third about 275. We also have a welcome center that we'll bring in. I think you saw that listed too. So it's a very active, living, breathing building. It's just not coming into the office and 15, 20 visitors and that's it. So we did run some maximums. We ran some daily, what we consider daily averages at any one given time in the day, and then we ran some maximums that might happen 3, 4, 5 times during the year. And the average might be around 1,000 people in and around that building. So we took some calculations based on about 75% of our, tried to give parking to about 75% of our staff, about 45% to the ABE students. And that's not that we're undercutting them, but we have noticed a trend that they tend to buddy up to rides. They tend to take alternate routes into the schools. We have one on the south side as well. We're able to keep watching too. And we end up at about 35% alternate methods and ways to transportation that we're suggesting now, immediately to start. Plus, we also have a policy we're putting into place. We're working on that policy right now just for that building, for transportation, that we hope to activate soon. And unfortunately, change takes a little time, and we realize that and put a little realism to it, that we think that over the next 3, 4, 5 years that we'll be able to make that even less. We'll have a better ratio of people bringing alternate transportation in. We do have a little parking spot, not a little, but a fair parking spot north of us at North Star. So there's another option there that when we have some of the big groups come in a few times a year, we'll put them up there and shuttle them down to our building to try to save so much. But we're also, if you would, we're trying to avoid flooding the neighborhood with a bunch of parking. So we're trying to do that delicate balance where we offer enough and without flooding the whole neighborhood all the time. And that's where we're headed.
I'm going to add a little bit to that. I mean, the reality is that there's a bunch of people currently having their jobs over at 807 who are driving their cars. Because they changed location doesn't mean that they're just going to automatically change their transportation method. They're used to driving their car, they're going to want to continue to drive their car. Over time, I think we can help them understand there are other alternative transportation methods that are more convenient, but it's not going to happen on day one that the building is open. Second thing is that when the building was first talked about, everybody thought about it as the administration building. And the administration building sort of stirs up in your mind people going into a building, doing their job, and then leaving their building at the end of the day, driving in and going out. The reality is, as the discussion around the building grew, it became clear that professional development would be a real asset there, and we would like those people to be on Broadway because they're going to come and go out of that building while they're having their professional development, hopefully buy some food and stop at Cub on their way home and whatnot. As a community, there was a loud cry for having some educational services on Broadway, and that was why the adult basic education was added to the building. It was not originally part of the building, but it seemed, and we heard from the community, that they wanted to have education on Broadway for folks, not only in our community, but throughout the area. So that was added, and it's another 275 folks, 3 shifts a day, which, again, I think we would all think is really positive. The other thing that got added was the Welcome Center, and that was originally also not going to be part of this building, but it seemed like it should be part of this building because they're trying to consolidate and get families, integrated into the education system. It should be part of all of the services offered in that building. So what started out being an administration headquarters became an educational services center, and frankly is going to function much more like Pilot City functions and much more like Pilot City Medical Center functions than, say, Coloplast, which is an office building. So somewhere in between Coloplast, where you're going to go in and you're going to leave and you're never going to, you're going to drive your car and that's the end of that, and Pilot City, which has, you know, a lot of people coming and going all day, somewhere in between that is how this building is going to function. Over time, I think people are going to change their patterns, but they're not going to change them overnight. The other thing that we heard loud and clear when we met with the Jordan community is they don't want people parking in their neighborhood. Old Highland said the same thing. You know, we're not really interested in, you know, having a whole bunch of folks just leaving their car here in front of our houses. So that's a challenge that needed to be mitigated. So there were lots of things that needed to be weighed and balanced and figured out, and that's why it may look like there's a lot of parking there. But frankly, I think it's going to get used. The other people that are going to use the parking are, we have a shared parking arrangement with Shiloh Church. Try going up to Shiloh on Sunday or on Wednesday night, and all their 30 parking spaces are taken and then some. We are their shared parking. And so there is no other opportunity on Broadway for people to park. There's no other big parking area for the churches and the other institutions that operate on the street. So I think that, you know, there are compromises we make when we do projects like this, and you know, would I prefer that everybody was not going to drive their car? Yeah, but it's not my world, and we're going to do the best we can and accommodate people's needs, accommodate the community's concerns, and provide a facility that works well for the neighborhood.
All right, one more question.
Just more on the parking. Will it be when the building's closed and it's not really in use and the parking lots are empty, will it be open for parking like you said for Shiloh, or like I can imagine when Broadway is just a big hustle and bustle of shops and restaurants and thousands of people come to Flow each summer and things like that. Will it be open for parking then?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's our intent to share that parking. I mean, Shiloh's one. There are three churches, I think, within a block or so of the area. So
okay.
It's our intent to share and share with as much as we possibly can.
Okay.
Maybe there's a giant event going on at 1200 Broadway that requires extra parking. I mean, we're going to have so many people up there. This is just going to be a huge event.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.